Welcome back, everyone. Craig Steger here. So, live streaming today. It is, let's see, January 14th, 2025.
I didn't get that.
Sorry, Siri. Okay. Um, so, today's topic is something I saw in the news. Um, Tragic situation, but it was a good chance to kind of explain some concepts that apply to car accidents and insurance fault, comparative fault, things like that. Before we begin, let me get the legal mumbo jumbo out of the way first. This live stream is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Viewing or participating in this live stream does not create an attorney-client relationship. Um, if you have any general questions about this topic or anything, feel free to leave it in the chat. I'll do my best to answer your question if I can. If I don't know the answer and I need to look up an answer, I'll try to cover it on a future video. You can always leave a comment if you have any questions or suggestions for topics. If you have a particular legal question, feel free to reach out to me. You can call or text me at this number, 608-205-8826. You can also go to the description below and get on my calendar. If it's a matter outside the state of Wisconsin, Iowa, or Minnesota where I practice, I will probably not be able to help you, but I may be able to help locate a lawyer in your area if you need, but I won't be able to provide any kind of legal advice or probably answer any questions since I don't practice in those states and I don't really know anything about other states' laws. So, with that in mind, let me go ahead and get started. So, today's topic involves a Wisconsin teenager who was tragically paralyzed in a crash in Nebraska. And I'll see if I can put it on the screen here. And let's see, we'll do it that way. Oh, funny. Um, Gruber's ad showed up. That's good advertisement by him, by the way. Um, his advertisement shows up at the top here. So anyway, yeah, so involves a Wisconsin teenager. Her name is Evelyn. I'm not sure if it's Lau or Low. Just happened. And I saw this on the news the other day and I got to looking into it. Um, and let me end the screen. I'll put a link to the story below. I believe there is a GoFundMe for her and her family. So if you would like to help support that family, I'll try to put a link to that in the description below, or maybe I'll pin a comment. So, with that in mind, let me go ahead and cover this story. So it says that the young lady is from Waterford, Wisconsin. It doesn't say in this article, but I looked her up. She's 17 years old. She's a junior, and she was visiting a friend in Nebraska. I'm not sure where St. Paul, Nebraska is at. Over the, I guess, the Christmas holiday. It happened on January 3rd. And as I understand it, she was so. What's interesting about the story, um, so she was driving a friend's vehicle, a pickup truck, when she lost control and the vehicle flipped upside down. I'm not sure if it rolled or just flipped. And her friend, who I guess owned the vehicle or at least had control of the vehicle, was thrown from the vehicle but not really injured, which is pretty amazing. Her family was thankful that he wasn't hurt, but she was driving his vehicle and sounds like lost control and overcorrected with the steering wheel, and that's what caused it to roll. Incidentally, I think I'm assuming, doesn't say in here, maybe wasn't wearing a seatbelt because she was in the back seat of the vehicle. Couple things come to mind. So my first thought is, okay, so she's paralyzed, teenage girl, from a personal injury standpoint, obvious catastrophic injuries. She's not going to walk again. I think she lost feeling from maybe around her belly button down. So not only can't she walk, she probably doesn't have functions over her, bodily functions and things like that. Um, and of course, that's likely, barring some great advancements in medical technology, is probably a lifelong injury for her. And I know it talked about her how her parents are having to modify their house to take care of her. Incidentally, they said it was actually her iPhone and Life 360 app which alerted them right away to the crash. I guess they were like 600 miles away, and they got in their vehicle and drove all the way and were actually on the phone with her medical team throughout the trip. The neurosurgeon told them that her injury wasn't life threatening, that she was going to be okay, but that she was likely, but she was paralyzed because her spine was quote unquote literally broken in half. So, she uh, she's probably in the hospital in Nebraska, and they talked about her maybe having to go to a rehab facility in Nebraska and Colorado, which suggests to me that maybe this happened on the western side of the state. Um, so, a couple of things that caught my attention about this. First of all, um, most likely, now this may be different under Nebraska law. Most likely, she doesn't have a claim, um, because she was the one driving and presumably the one at fault. Now, we don't know exactly what happened, what was going on inside the vehicle. Is it possible there was a mechanical defect? I'm not sure how old the vehicle is. If she were a younger person, let's say she was 15 and maybe, let's say, didn't have a license, that could potentially give rise to a claim of negligent entrustment, negligent supervision against whoever owned the vehicle. The fact that she was 17 and presumably had her license may not make that possible. Um, but typically, and I mean, I think this is almost universally true. Um, you could be badly, badly injured in a car crash, but there has to be someone at fault other than yourself. Now, it could be a family member. If your parent is driving a vehicle or your child is driving a vehicle and you get into a crash and they cause it, you would have a claim against them and their insurance company, which may also be your insurance company, but you typically don't have a claim against your insurance company for your own um, bad driving, if you will. And maybe she wasn't, maybe it was just a fluke thing, but there has to be fault against someone else, not you as the injured person. If you are the driver, um, under most circumstances, there you won't have a claim because you are at fault and you can't really sue yourself. Now, here's some possible things that I would be looking into. Number one, if this were my child or if this was my client, I would be seeing if I could get the black box data from the vehicle, see what's going on. I would probably want to have someone go out and look at the vehicle, inspect it to see if there are any, did a tire fail? Did something break in the steering? It looks like from the pictures there's snow on the ground, so maybe she just hit a patch of ice or snow. Probably isn't anything you can do about that. But, I did notice, you know, it looks like from one of the pictures, I saw there was another article had a little better picture of the vehicle. It was crushed in pretty good. Um, Vehicles are kind of designed to be able to handle, especially if it's just a kind of a flip on its side. Once you start rolling, it can be a different thing. But vehicles have come a long way in the last, let's say, 30 or 40 years. So if you get in your car, think about this next time you get in your vehicle and you look to your left and to your right, those braces that come down, I think those are called A pillars. Pillar, some letter pillar. They're pretty big now. And they actually create a blind spot. That's actually one of the arguments against the safety features requiring them to build it up, because it actually creates a blind spot. They used to be much smaller, basically enough to sustain the roof, which isn't very heavy. But over time, the federal regulations require them to beef that up, specifically because people do roll their vehicles over, and what you don't want is to have that roof crush in on you, because, as you can imagine, it's a it's a prime way to create head, neck, and back injuries or death, right? And so vehicles are kind of designed, or supposed to be designed, to be able to withstand a rollover without being crushed down. Now, was the vehicle modified? Was there some kind of a defect? So if there's a defect in the vehicle, sometimes you may have a claim against the manufacturer of the vehicle. Um, I would want to look at, tires, steering, acceleration, get the black box data, see if you can figure out exactly what happened. Maybe the friend whose vehicle it was, who was thrown out, maybe they have more information about why she lost control. But I would want to find out why she rolled. Did her seatbelt work? Did she have her seatbelt on? Did the seatbelt fail? If the seatbelt fails, possibly there's a claim there against the manufacturer of that vehicle. If the seatbelts fail, those are the kinds of things that you might not normally think about, and even a lot of lawyers may not think about it, because they look at this and they're like, well, it's a tragic situation, but she was driving. It was probably her fault. There's nothing you can do there. And there may very well be nothing that they can do, but possibly there is. If there is some claim against the manufacturer of that vehicle, I would, given the severity of her injuries, I would look at that. I would, at least if I was an attorney and I got a call about this, I'd at least want to go out and look at it, and maybe have an engineer go out and look at it, take some measurements, take lots of photographs, try to get that black box data, maybe even preserve the vehicle. Once that vehicle gets disposed of, it gets totaled out, all that information gets lost. And so, on a case like this, with this type of injury, this severe of injury, if it were my situation, I would want to try and preserve that vehicle, and get photographs and measurements, and maybe have someone look at it, have a lawyer or law firm maybe look at it, probably one in Nebraska, or one that has attorneys in Nebraska would be probably the place to start. I hope the family does that, and maybe ask a few attorneys, because, like I said, the natural reaction to this is there is probably nothing that can be done here, because she was the one driving. But um, sometimes there is something you can do, but it takes an attorney willing to dig a little bit, and think outside the box a little bit. Um, so the other thing I wanted to say is this. Her she's from Wisconsin. Presumably, her parents have their vehicles licensed in Wisconsin, presumably insured in Wisconsin. Um, but if she's in Nebraska, um, her parents' insurance, or her insurance, whatever they have, probably carries with her. There may be med pay. If, for example, she's in a state that has no fault benefits, Wisconsin doesn't have no fault benefits. It's not part of our statutory structure. Most insurance policies aren't going to have it. But if you travel to another state, such as Minnesota, that has no fault, that gets automatically added onto your insurance, and that includes additional medical expenses and lost earnings, things like that. Um, I'm not sure what Nebraska's situation is, but a Nebraska attorney might be able to answer that question and try to get as many benefits as they can for this young woman and her family. Thankfully, the person that she was with wasn't injured. I've seen these kinds of cases where the reverse is true, where the driver rolls and the passenger is the one that's severely injured, and those are not that this isn't tragic, but that's just extra tragedy when someone else causes the crash. But of course, in that case, you probably have a very substantial injury claim against the other driver, their insurance company, maybe your own insurance company for uninsured or underinsured coverage. But that's kind of how insurance works. It travels across state lines, even if you're not in your vehicle at the time. But something to keep in mind. So I hope this family and this young woman, hope she recovers as good as possible and quickly as possible, and that she's able to lead as fulfilling and normal a life as possible. If you happen to see this video and you want to support the family, I'll try to put a link to the GoFundMe or whatever they have going on, and the articles about it in the description below. So if anyone happens to watch this after the fact and you have questions about this or anything, feel free to leave a comment. I do my best to respond to the comments when I can. And if you need to reach me, get a hold of me, feel free to call or text me at 608-205-8826, or go to the description below. You can get my contact information. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that I can, or help you if I can. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. A little bit shorter than usual, but I hope you found that helpful. And until next time, everyone, have a good one.